It's a Hearts Volunteers Gamers Club war game. It's Battle for Plancenoit 1815 using Warhammer Napoleonics club variant rules. Here we see sort of initial setup with some of the French troops outside the village of Plancenoit and the French troops deployed in Plancenoit itself. Here's the French position just north of Plancenoit. And a little bit further north again, and this shows the Commander-in-Chief of the French forces. Here we can see the left wing of the French position with its cavalry. And here's the extreme left wing of the French position waiting for the arrival of the Prussians. Here's the first Prussian brigade to arrive, just to the right of Frichemont. And here's the farmhouse of Frichemont, showing the Nassau garrison. Here's another Prussian brigade just arriving, just south of Frichemont. And here are more Prussian brigades arriving, heading for the central French position. More Prussians coming on. And this is the Prussian most southerly brigade. These are heading straight for the village of Plancenoit. And here's an overview of the position at the beginning of the game. Here's the farmhouse at Frichemont and the advance of the Prussians. Prussian cavalry starts advancing towards the French left flank, and then the Nassauers join the Prussians in the advance towards the main French deployment. Prussians getting themselves into quite a serious column of attack here. And the Prussians begin to advance in the centre. Prussians start unlimbering their artillery batteries and start bombarding French positions. And the Prussians at the south end of their line start heading towards the village of Plancenoit. And here's Blucher discussing his plans with his staff. Here we see a second Prussian brigade coming on in support. At the north end of the table, the Prussian Jaegers now get into a firefight with some French skirmishers, and the main Prussian line at the north end of the table starts coming into contact with the French left flank. Prussians now unlimber their batteries and start firing into the French position, and there was a cavalry charge going in there of the Prussians. And here's a Prussian brigade advancing up on the centre of the French deployment. Some Prussian cavalry on the extreme left flank start going around the bottom of the table, heading for some cavalry to the south of Plancenoit. Here we can see two Prussian brigades advancing on the French position. Some French lancers get the first charge in on some Prussian cavalry and manage to drive them back. And the Prussians in the centre are also charged by some French lancers, and they get pushed back also. Prussian columns now get into some hand-to-hand combat with a French artillery battery, and the Prussian cavalry on the French left flank, now forcing some of the French infantry battalions into square. And here we can see Prussian infantry getting into hand-to-hand combat with the French left flank. French lancers, as you can see, they've actually managed to break into the main Prussian position. At the south end of the table, Prussian Uhlans now charging a French battery, while an infantry battalion just to the north of them also goes into hand-to-hand combat with the French battalion. The main Prussian attack at the north of the table, one of the battalions here destroys a French battery, and more Prussian troops getting into hand-to-hand combat with the French just outside Plancenoit. Prussian cavalry at the south end of the table managed to destroy the French battery, and the Prussian cavalry on the French left flank managed to break one of the French cavalry regiments. Prussian assault on Plancenoit has a bit of a hiccup. One of their battalions is broken. At the south end of the table, the Prussian cavalry are pushed back by some French cavalry reinforcements. But the Prussians press on and start the assault on the village itself. And here's the one remaining French battalion still deployed outside the village of Plancenoit. Prussian cavalry still managing to keep some of the French battalions in square on the French left flank. And here we see one of the French battalions manages to regain its order and rejoins the line. Here's an overview of the Prussian attack on Plancenoit. We can see Napoleon in the background there enjoying a sandwich. Here's the main Prussian attack, a sort of rather large attack column coming in on the French central position. And here we see one of the French battalions still in square. Prussians now beginning to open up with more artillery batteries supported by some more Jaeger light infantry. Here's an overview of the attack of the Prussian main assault. And here's another view of the Prussian cavalry charging around the French squares. The Prussians and Nassauers have decided to leave Frischemont ungarrisoned, which might not be a good idea later on in the game. Some of the French cavalry in the central position now countercharge, causing some of the Prussian infantry to go into square. And another Prussian brigade comes onto the table as reinforcements. Some French dragoons counter-attack and charge one of the Prussian infantry battalions. Another regiment of dragoons manages to catch some Prussian landwehr in the flank. At the south end of the table, the Prussian Uhlans again try charging into some French chasseurs. Unfortunately, they're completely broken, and some French lancers manage to catch another Prussian regiment in the flank. Here's some fairly hectic hand-to-hand combat with the main Prussian columns now getting in amongst the French main position, and managed to push several of them back. French cavalry attacks at the south end of the table quite successful. They managed to destroy two Prussian cavalry regiments. The initial Prussian assault on Plancenoit is repulsed, but the Prussian attack on the last infantry battalion outside of Plancenoit is finally pushed back, and two Prussian battalions assault the village. Here we see Grouchy's brigade now arrives on the bottom of the table, and news just come across from the main battle. The British position has collapsed, and the remnants of d'Erlon's corps has now come across in support of the French right wing. of the French cavalry regiments that charged across at the main Prussian position has been repulsed, and here we see the Prussians coming back in to attack the village of Plancenoit again. The Prussians push on with their attack into the main French position, but they're now having to divert some of their troops to face up against the French reinforcements at the north end of the table. French cavalry at the south end of the table now starts charging some of the Prussian infantry battalions, and here's the situation at the top end of the table with d'Erlon's corps coming on. French cavalry now beginning to make a mess of the Prussian left wing, and Grouchy's troops now start to assault some of the Prussian battalions. Here we can see the Prussians and the Sauers still pressing on with their attack on the French position. They're desperately trying to hold off the French reinforcements that are coming on at the north end of the table. Here we can see some more of the French reinforcements arriving behind the French left flank. The Prussians now have actually broken into the village of Plancenoit. They've forced the French defenders out, and they've managed to capture the village. The church. This, unfortunately for the Prussians, automatically releases the Young Guard and a couple of battalions of French Old Guard chasseurs to come on as reinforcements. Here we see the French again counter-attacking on their main position, trying to force the Prussians back. And here the Prussians again have broken into another sector of Plancenoit. That means they've now taken half of the village. And here we can see some firefights that are going on in the central position. French cavalry is now trying to counter-attack and trying to push back the Prussians, and a couple of the French cavalry regiments forcing some of the Prussians into square. Some of the Prussian reinforcements still advancing across the table, trying to support their assault. And here we see the French reinforcements still moving up to support the French left flank. Another French counter-attack by one of their dragoon regiments. And here's some more firefighting at the north end of the table. Coming towards the end of the game now, the French reinforcements have managed to come on and save the French position from being overrun. And here the Prussians still attempting to advance, but I think they've left it too late. Grouchy's infantry brigade is now reinforced by a couple of French cavalry regiments, and the Prussian left flank begins to disintegrate. And here's the end game of how the battle finished north of Plancenoit. And here's the position at the end with the Prussians holding two sections of the village, but still a French victory.